The latest Mazda6 with a product update as a sedan, limousine, saloon or as an estate, wagon or Kombi, both versions, the differences in different trim levels and the new technology updates. We will explain you everything in exterior, interior and the driving experience today in Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars with Thomas. Let's now start with the details in the front of both cars in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. So what is interesting, we have two different trim levels here. They have different names in different markets. For example, in Germany or also other European countries, we have Prime Line, Executive and Sports. This is middle trim level, Executive. This is Sports trim level, the higher trim level. In the US, however, Sport, not Sports, Sport is the basis trim level. And then there's Touring and Grand Touring. So that would be like Sports in Germany, Grand Touring in the US. This one here, maybe Touring, maybe Sport in US and Executive in Germany. And the interesting thing is, in the middle trim level, we got still a 3D Mazda logo that looks better, basically. Also the front grille that has been updated earlier with the visual facelift. Here leads more towards the horizontal drawn headlights. Here in the higher trim level, we have the adaptive cruise control, and with those sensors here, you will have a 2D Mazda logo that looks worse, but it's the place they have decided to hide the sensors and still remain a logo. I think what is rather more beautiful are those horizontal fins we see here. 4,87 meters or 16 foot is the total length of this mid-size sedan at first. The estate version you will soon see is just a little shorter, but you don't really see it. It's just about a little bit difference in the overhangs. What is also interesting, the sedan, as I said earlier, we have in the higher trim level. That means also 19-inch rims. They look very beautiful here, also in this gray scheme together with the red. 19-inch here, estate will be different. This red is a signature Mazda color. I think it's really fitting, this ruby red and the classic sedan line. So a very elegant design with the coupe style here, and the Mazda Kodo design says we have a lot of floating lines. So a little bit more joyful also than other sedans, but basically keeping a classic silhouette. And the taillights are already beginning right here. And it's really interesting because this generation here from the Mazda is already on the market in 2012, and about 2 years later there has been a facelift we have already presented to you. It really changed the front. This now will more about technology changes, engine, interior and also with the driving, more to that later. Let's continue with the comparison to the estate. So we have picked the estate in a different color and a different trim level to show you as much variation as possible in this video. Here 17-inch rims are mounted as in a lower trim level. It looks a little bit balloon style with 17-inch. I think 18 could be a very good compromise. Also with 19 the riding comfort is really fine, that's no problem. Still a soft riding comfort. It's basically a very comfortable car. But 18 could also be a good compromise between price and also the visual on the outside. I would like to hear your opinion if you would prefer the estate or the sedan. From the visual part, I prefer the sedan, but you see the estate first for roof rails to attach something in between, for example, a roof box, and then the roofline continues further, doesn't drop down too much and not too strong shoulders. So again, rather elegant, not too much screaming out, a really conservative design on the exterior. And although I don't prefer the estate from the outside, I will prefer it on the inside. More to that, of course, very soon. And then a rather flat window in the rear. That creates a little bit more agility in the rear, although you lose a little bit of space that could be right here. In the rear of the sedan, you see repeating design schemes like here. If you scroll back to the front, you see the same design that leads over in this transition to the taillights. I like it when design schemes are repeated on different parts, maybe also at the interior. So a classic design layout for a sedan here in the rear as well. And two exhaust pipes for this 2.5 liter petrol engine. More details to that soon. We'll focus on that one today because that is also available worldwide. Sometimes the rear of an estate and a sedan is really different from the same model. Here it's not. It's basically all the same, just that there's an additional window that's coming further to us. But it's really interesting how they really have an equal design also with those horizontal taillights. This is the Mazda car key. Pretty solid, pretty simple. Keyless entry would be pressing this button. If I press it here now, it beeps because I have the ignition turned on. Hey, interesting. They have stepped up the game in the door closing sound. Not quite when you let the door handle flip. That still sounds a little bit, not that premium alike, but this one here, and this has a reason, because they have been working on the sound insulation with the product update. First of all, the glasses, new insulating glasses, and also the materials inside the door. Then more insulation materials are used, and I hope you will also feel it while driving the car. More to that later. Sportsline in Europe or Grand Touring in the US means higher trim with faux leather on the inside of the doors, also on the dashboard. You will see it quite soon. I really like that because you have a nice visual view without hurting animals, and it's also in a bright color. Really like that. Also solid from the controls here. Overall, a good build quality and storage space here at the inside of the doors. Bose sound system is equipped here. The sound is pretty okay. Not the best sound system I've heard so far. On the lower side here again, see the faux leather is used. It can be picked in a bright or also in a darker color. We will see that in the other trim level when it's in black. Shifting pedals at the steering wheel for the automatic transmission we are driving here today. There are also manual ones available. The cockpit itself remained rather the same in the update. Here we will soon see that the additional head-up display will flip out. They have worked on the resolution in that one and also on the resolution in the infotainment screen. Then those are sadly the animal skin seats in the sports line. You can only have them optional because even in the higher trim levels in Europe you get basic cloth seats, and in the US you get a lot of leatherette. So overall a fine choice by Mazda. And I'll go into detail about that again when we go to the lower trim level. Would also be nice if we had a leatherette choice with that one here in the bright color. Maybe that's available in the US, I'm not quite sure about that. But overall, a good and clean cockpit overview. Already see it from this perspective. And the steering wheel, the buttons here, for example, to control the instruments there, sound-wise, phone picking up, and right side for the ACC controls. Overall quite compact steering wheel. Small hidden storage space is right here. It slides down smoothly. That's funny. It's not always every car, but here this closing mechanism, this one here is quite loose. They could update that. And let's get inside. This seat surface here, that will be the same with the leather red in the US version, is a little bit stronger. The cloth seats we'll take soon a look at are a little bit softer. It's also a matter of preference, of course. There are other cars in this segment, especially from the German manufacturers, who build more a little bit for taller people. You feel it on the seats. For example, in the Volkswagen Passat, you have more space as a tall person. But we also feel it, for example, in the Volvo V60 or S60. It's not aimed at that tall people. It's maybe really because a lot of people in Japan are on a regular basis a little bit smaller than, for example, in Europe. That might be the story behind it. I'm not quite sure about it, but it's really a funny fact that we quite often experience. However, me is 1.86 m or 6'1". There's still okay headroom right here. We have this glass window mounted here. I will soon show you that. Overall, you have a seating position that is, I would really say, neutral. It doesn't go into any direction. It's, you step in the car, you just get along, you don't have to get used to it, and you don't feel, oh, this is especially sporty. This is especially this and that and that. It's really a very neutral position. So between, anything else, and I think that's also a unique selling point of this car, that it doesn't scream out into any direction. Cockpit overview is dominated by horizontal lines. They've really cleaned it up. Also, you see that the touchscreen in other Mazda models is a little bit different. They try to remove this attached look and try to integrate it a little bit more. I think it's quite okay now. Start-stop button is here. Soft plastics right here on the dashboard. I think, well, that is hard beneath it, but we got leather red cover on it. So overall, nice, and you can expect that also from a top trim level. Prices, by the way, they start at about 26,000 euros in Germany and $22,000 in US. If you go for the big petrol engine here with the automatic gearbox and the highest trim level, you can almost double the price by that. But that's also pretty normal. Overall, if you compare it to the competitors, still really okay, the price. Matte aluminum used here, and again, the fake leather. And the climate control beneath, it's still good to reach it. You don't have to reach or look too low really to be able to control that. And the automatic shifting lever. And let's now go into the details of all that. And for the upper part, you have a slot for your glasses right here, and then the big glass right here is just a small hole, not too huge. Well, why not? Some like it, some don't. It's not a must-have feature, not a panoramic roof, but just to show you that it is available, and if it gets too sunny, you can always close that. So here on the steering wheel, you can press the info button, then you can change what's happening in the digital screen on the right side, for example, with the adaptive cruise control or also consumption. You can even get it lower. More to that in the driving part, and classic speed in the middle part and left side RPM. And then there's the head-up display. It's a separate plastic glass, and you can see some information in there. For example, here the speed, but there will also be some GPS information on it. Downside is it's quite small what you see, and it's not in such a height as you would have it on a direct projection into the windscreen. Middle console, they have found a nice cover here for the beverage holders. Also a little bit adaptive inside. Would you prefer Mazda Sparkling or Mazda Stillwater? Yeah, or even those small bottles are okay, but it's rather fit for bigger bottles. Might be for the American customers. Then let's continue here. This is a central control stick for the infotainment system, but again redundant. You can also use the touch screen. You can see it better when I remove the bottles here. And go back. This is a favorite button. And then there are hotkeys for home, music or the GPS, and the volume you can control here, but also later at the steering wheel, and electric handbrake to clean up the whole interior right here. And the automatic lever, since quite a while, it's pretty easy now, just put it down, not the old stuff like in a stairs form. And the sport button, telling you more about it when we drive the car, you can change the characteristics a little bit. And quality wise is always interesting. Here the middle console, can you shake it? And it's still possible to do it a little bit. It's not 100% attached. Also, that when you have the armrest behind that one, you can wobble it around a little bit. The question is, does it play a role for you? We sometimes make those tests to see the final interior build quality, and that one is, for example, in this case, a little bit better with the competitors, but overall we see a solid performance here. And inside or underneath the armrest, there's the square room and 12-volt power supply and the 2 USB slots to charge your smartphone, aux in as well. More space under the AC unit and another 12-volt power supply. And then the AC unit itself, pretty much simple, standard. Also a nice clicking sound they have here with a glass screen. It's a nice layout, very clear, big buttons, easy to control. And now with the product update, you can optionally also get a heated steering wheel, very nice for winter times. It's included in the very top trim levels. Same goes for the seat heating. The 7-inch infotainment screen, it's a mix between touchscreen. So here, doing anything, you see, you can still do it with the central control knob I've shown you earlier, so you can do both. And that's good for a co-driver, for example. Maybe the driver controls it with a stick and turns and presses. And the co-driver then uses the touch function, like this, for example. Easier to go back with the lower part, or can also hold and go like this. Here in the product update, they have updated the screen as well. It now has a better, clearer resolution, and you see that this is just pleasing in general. Self-explanatory, this menu. The GPS led us the way quite well here, so no complaints about that now. The control is maybe not that easy than in other systems. You have to get used to it. I know it meanwhile. For example, here that you can have to hide the buttons again. Maybe the proximity sensor would be nice. It's also easy display here. So I have seen GPS system with a little bit better overview, but overall it does the job. Applications would, for example, be a fuel economy monitor with some visualizations, and this is a good thing that it shows here right now, because IE Loop, what's that? First of all, it's available with all diesels, or if the petrol engine comes with a sports line, the top line in Europe, or it would be then Grand Touring, or maybe even Touring in the US, so the highest trim level with a petrol engine. An IE Loop means that the braking energy is then put into in a condenser that's right here in the visualization here, and the condenser then gives the energy to the electric consumers in the car. Therefore, not the main battery is used, and that saves fuel because you don't have to recharge the main vehicle battery. That would, for example, take care of that. And if you recharge it, there's more friction then again, and you need more fuel. So this IE Loop technology can really save you some fuel. And finally, what about the smartphone then here? There's no Apple CarPlay and stuff available yet. You just press it here, either with the stick or press it here at the touch. And then you can connect your phone via Bluetooth and stream your music. By the way, Mazda has often this included function that when you drive the car, you cannot touch everything anymore. So don't wonder if you think, oh, the touchscreen is not working. That's because probably you're driving the car. That's some kind of safety mechanism. What about the glove box? Sliding down very smoothly, I like that. And also standard space inside there. I don't see any cooling function. Let's get in the rear, and that's the part where we'll see the biggest difference between sedan and estate. Well, of course, they also have a different trim level, but that's not hooked to the estate or to the sedan. We just picked that we have the sedan in a higher trim level and the estate in the lower one. We could have also done it other way around. 1m86, 6'1". Again, the size, knee space here. Good result. Overall, mid-size segment, standard, I think. The headroom, that's very interesting, because also we got the glass roof mounted. Then we got limited headroom here, but then towards the rear, it's raising again, and that makes my head fit exactly in here. I can place 2 fingers above my head still. If I lean back, well, it would theoretically still work, so it's really okay for me. 190, 6'2" could still work. However, you will also see the difference then to the estate version. And about flipping the seats, it would also be good to be flexible, always to flip it from here and from the rear maybe, but that's not possible. Classic sedan layouts with a separate trunk. There is reasonable space, yes. It will be better in the estate version, you will see soon, because here we are limited in the loading space. It goes very deep in there. That's well usable. Going to the airport with a lot of bags, this will be not a problem. But to release the seats, you have to pull the mechanism here. That's a little bit mediocre. And then you have to go around and flip the seats in a 2/3, 1/3 split. That's it. A better solution we will soon see with the estate. And here now a different interior of the estate, and this is interesting because here we have the cloth seats, and I've mentioned it earlier, bases, at least in Europe, Germany, are always cloth, and the US versions have a lot of leatherette options. The real animal skin you just get optionally. That's a good decision by Mazda. Let's get inside here, and from the seating comfort, I really prefer those cloth seats. They are, they are not too soft, so they give you enough feedback. Also me, as 1m86 or 6'1", pump the seat down and adjust it properly. Have enough headspace, headroom, definitely, and especially on those cloth seats here, because they are not too sticky. They also have parts of the seats that are, you can, when you feel it, it's not too much resistance. That's interesting, and that gives you a better climate as well, because either on leatherette or also on Alcantara, for example, gets hotter quite easy, and the cloth choice is the best for the hot climate, and you don't stick too much to the seats. We have seen the difference here from the high to the low trim level, and the good thing is already in the lower or middle trim level you have a fine interior with good quality here, softened up. They have also paid attention to that, and here with leatherette, this is always leatherette here, not in white though here. I prefer the bright color, let's take it that way. But how everything is assembled, this is a solid build quality, and you're not forced to go for a higher trim level to have that. And now to the rear, and this is where the estate version can really play out its advantages. First of all, also again a cozy feeling. You sit relatively low as a rear passenger, but that's totally fine. And here, that's nice. A lot of headroom, especially when there's no panoramic roof mounted. So this is the big advantage here in the estate version. So if you go with tall people in the rear and your market is offering the estate version, then this is way to go. And again, the cloth seats are really very comfortable. So they have a good mix, between that the first area gives you the cushion and then resistance underneath. So good result. And here in the middle again, some beverage holders. So as a rear passenger, I would definitely prefer the sedan, the estate version here. So what about the cargo space? Here with the estate version. No loading sill, just a very small one. That's good. Here beneath, you can have optionally a replacement tire. Sometimes there is also the sound system here. And then you see you have more space. You will also be able to fit front wheel D-mounted bicycles in here. And here, for example, with the cover. It's an interesting system. There are no rails at the side and no wobbling around because it is fixed right here and automatically opens. I mean, it's an nice and easy solution. This is a little bit small and soft here, how it's attached. So if you remove it very, very often, that could maybe give you some problems in the long term. But overall, see it right here, it's an easy system, easy and cheap system. So that's it, you know. I mean, why not? Some different ideas. And then you can also release seats from here. And you see they directly flip. That's good. Here again, plop, and that's it. And just put this one over. And you can see here, there's then a rather even loading surface. And there are also fixations for tension belts available, for example, right here. So overall, a versatile result. So what's beneath the hood? No hydraulic dampers, that's a pity, but then again you can argue, how often do you open this here? I hope not too often. This one here is my favorite Mazda engine, 2.5 liter naturally aspirated petrol engine with 192 horsepower, acceleration about 8 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 0 to 61, 62 miles an hour. And this one here, petrol-wise, there was also a 2 liter one available with 145 or 165 horsepower. And then on the diesel side, 2.2 liter diesel with 150 or 175 horsepower. And again, acceleration-wise, you can just remember that the big petrol engine or the stronger diesel, around 8 seconds in the acceleration, and the weaker diesel horsepower variants, or also the smaller petrol engines, they're about 9.5 seconds, and so just a little bit slower. This one will also be fine in the consumption. Look forward to that result when we drive the car, definitely. And so Mazda is really saying we don't work with turbos here in the petrol side. The diesels, of course, have turbos, but here they work with a Sky Active technology, and for example, that has to do with tuning the fuel injection and also with condensing. And I think overall, a nice technology they found there. I think one turbo less that could possibly break. And this GVT, the G vectoring control, the new technology, has also something to do with the engine because that changes the torque, especially when we are in curves. And this is a very interesting system I will explain to you at the end of the driving part, because we then get to some curvy roads as well. And we will start our driving part with the updated Mazda6 with the motorway. Here close to Barcelona here today. Hola to our Spanish friends. And here we can also test, for example, the cruise control, and it's also very important about the new sound insulation, because this is supposed to change. And with the 2.5 liter petrol engine you can get worldwide. So 100 kilometers an hour, I set the cruise control, and we pay attention how smooth it reacts and keeps the distance to the car in front of us. Also when the speed is, for example, reduced now. Lane change. So I have to reduce the speed myself. When I press on the set button, for example, I was driving 100, now speed was reduced. Then I just press the set button once and directly set the new speed again at 80. that's how it's supposed to work. That's how it should work. So really satisfied by that. And sound insulation wise, also at 100 kilometers an hour, yes, we feel a little difference. I really think it's calmer than before. Even before it wasn't really bad, but the Mazda6 was not among the top in this segment. As for the sound insulation, definitely not. Oh, some Spanish police camera work, speed cameras. Well, we were quite fine, I think. Also due to the cruise control, of course. So let's get on here. So I don't have to raise my voice that much. There are some other mid-size segment cars that are even more silent, but I like that they have improved it now, worked on the sound insulation in the windows and also on the materials on the inside of the doors, for example, and so they could improve even more. I really like the naturally aspirated engine, the 2.5 liter petrol, because it runs very harmonically. So you hardly hear it, especially when you're just rolling, accelerating very gently, and it gives you a very sovereign feeling. And also when you're doing some overtaking, which we'll soon show you, it doesn't give you this turbo kick. So also the harder acceleration is more in a harmonic way. Let's see it. We have to reduce speed, now switching. Now let's go 60 to 100. That's it. Of course, it screams a little bit more than the turbo because we also need a little bit more RPM. And sound-wise, you got the impression, oh, now the engine sets really in. But from the feeling you have in the car, and that's also very important, for example, for the co-driver. Hello, Mr. Cameraman. That doesn't give you this turbo kick where you're like, you know? So it's more comfortable also for the co-driver that you have a harmonic acceleration with the naturally aspirated engine now. And most important thing is, of course, about the consumption, because most of the times when you have the official consumption figures, they don't really match, you know? They're never really true. But here with the Mazda NA engines, you can be quite certain that it's actually quite true what they tell you, how the consumption is, and we'll of course keep you updated by that. That was also one result of our big comparison test from the mid-size cars. The Mazda was the best as for the lower consumption. I also see, while driving on the motorway, the new head-up display. It is still inside this plastic glass. However, the visualization inside has changed now. It's a little bit clearer and also has more color. I like that. However, I'm not, the biggest fan of those head-up displays that are not directly projected into the windscreen, but just on this separate plastic. This is here the cheaper solution, and they, for example, say, okay, by that we can offer that to more people and also at a cheaper rate. But I don't see the big advantage, especially for tall people, because there's not so much difference from my side if I look here to the instruments or here, and in a really projected one it would be like here or here. So that's the difference here. This new control of the G-forces, GVC, the G-vectoring control, this one we don't experience here yet. This is still to come, so stay tuned for that, because that's more about when you're in curves, and we will tell you more about that. Let's first stick to the Autobahn right here. So the ride has become a little bit more silent. Not a huge difference, but just a small nuance. That's nice. It's also good that we got the better resolution at the infotainment system, so when you look at those screens, they are easier to realize, definitely. Then in general about the car, as we're driving the sedan version here right now, there's no driving difference between the sedan and the Estate. However, the visibility is also quite fine here in the sedan version. It's a little bit better in the estate version, but also the view to the rear through the mirror is fine for me. The mirror is big enough, and also, although the rear window is very flat, you get a good view also to the sides. What I find always quite special about most Mazda vehicles, they feel a little bit smaller than they actually are. So for example, here now in the mid-size segment, you rather get the feeling of driving a compact segment car, and you could describe that in the best way, that here you feel like you're sitting on the car, on the seat, and with some other mid-size segment cars that then, you know, go a little bit deeper, the seats are also a little bit lower, they more have the feeling like you sit in the car, in the seat. I hope you get what I mean. That's the best way of describing that. So it's not a sports car go-kart feeling, but it goes a little bit in this direction. So it also feels nice and agile to ride, definitely. The cruise control does a very good job. Very relaxing to drive with that, and it's one of those options or features I would definitely go to. It's an adaptive one, and especially when we're riding on the Autobahn here. That's not Autobahn here today, that's in Germany. So the motorway, Spanish motorway, Motorvia, I think. That's really relaxing because I don't have to do so much with accelerating, braking and stuff. Another very good example, also here for the blind spot detector. There's a symbol here in the side mirrors. It's not from basic equipment. I think it should be more and more updated, that we get more security features by that. And the most important thing, the autonomous emergency brake. Here, nice to see that we're in a tunnel in the GPS. Good visualization. The AEB is not included in the serial equipment either, and I think that's a mistake. They should offer it from the basis version. That's the most important safety feature. However, most Mazda6 customers will have that feature because it is included, in Germany for example, in the executive line. That's the middle trim level. That would probably be the sport trim level in the US comparing to that. So what about another acceleration, 60 to 80? Let's go now. See, the car shifts down first for that. But we can also change that just a little bit. When I go with the shifting stick, it's quite smooth to control, by the way. To the left side, I'll go in the manual mode. And I can also shift myself, for example, pulling it goes up, pushing it, gears go down. So I can go to third gear, for example, myself. And then I get a direct input from the throttle, now in the third gear. But still, I mean, we're in third gear and the engine is still relatively silent. Then just push it to the right again and you go in the automatic mode. Also, you can change the driving characteristics of the car. We will more experience that when we got some bending roads. But here, to give you a preview, there's this sport button. When I push it up, RPMs go higher and also gear goes down. And it's basically the same I would be doing manually, but just it's done automatically. And then I also have a better sporty input. The throttle control is more sensitive, so more reaction. And if you want to rather drive fuel consuming, then you leave out the sport mode. By the way, also an acoustic warning. That happens, by the way. The visual warning is always on. The acoustic warning is the additional feature when I have the turning indicator set, because the car then knows you might really want to change the lane, so a warning. So don't forget to set your turning indicators, because those ones ultimately protect you also from changing your lane and running into someone. Very important. So overall, from the Autobahn ride and the assistance systems, Mazda has really stepped up the game over the years. the car gives you a very safe feeling, a very solid feeling. It's not where you say, oh, you know, I'm totally surprised by anything. You can get along with the car very easily, very fastly, and everything really makes a solid impression. That's it so far from the Autobahn riding part. Maybe the last thing here with higher speeds, you see that the steering input is really direct for a mid-size car. Still, the steering is pretty light, so you don't need a lot of power to control it. And that will also help you while city riding. So that's it for the motorway part, and let's jump to the even more fun part. Now, to the fun driving part. We'll have a few bending roads in front of us, and here I can also explain you more about the G-vectoring control. Now that's interesting. It's now from a serial production for all of the Mazda6 models, and will also be introduced for other Mazda models. And how does the system work? First of all, it's very important that it doesn't add any weight to the car, because it's just a software update. And what does the software do? It's not a torque vectoring control that, we know maybe torque vectoring control systems where each single individual wheel is maybe reduced a little bit in the torque to push the car in the corner. Here it's different. For example, now I'm going into a corner here, and the car realizes, oh, there's more steering input. Like this and this. And when there's more steering input, when I'm going in the corner, the car dips a little bit to the front. When I'm going out the corner, the car goes a little bit more to the rear. And why is that? So now again, in the corner, I don't feel it that hard. It's just like nuances. Because when I'm steering in a corner, the torque is a little bit reduced to put more weight on the outer front wheel. And that gives me a better steering, a better feeling in the steering, a more precise steering. And I don't have to correct my steering commands. And that's of course a more comfortable feeling for a driver and also for a co-driver, for example. And when I'm accelerating out a corner, I would like to have more stability, and therefore there's a little bit more torque, and that leans the car a little bit to the outer wheel in the back, and that gives more stability when going out of the corner. So a very clever system. I mean, you don't feel a huge difference when riding it. Maybe we feel a little bit more when we drive a little bit faster just. Let's see if we can overtake that guy in front of us. But the thing is, solving that via software update is also a clever choice in adding no weight, and just to give you more comfort and more sporty feeling at the same time. And you will even more feel that system when the road, for example, is slippery or maybe on ice. There's a demonstration video from Mazda. We have uploaded that as well. You can check that out then. I'll put it in the video description. There you can also see they have some demonstration runs where you see the difference between those as well. So the car in general feels quite agile. As I said, it feels a little bit like a smaller car. So I really have some sporty fun in those curves here now. Even more if the car in front of us would be gone. But it's always, maybe there's a solution. Now let's go into sport mode to give it a little bit more torque. Let's see if we can do it right here. No, I don't want to run into a truck. So it remains very exciting in Autogefühl. So we're getting in the corner. And the funny thing is, you might think, that the car is dipping a little bit or more. There's more weight on the front wheel or than on the rear wheel again. that would maybe shake you around more, but the opposite thing is really happening because you don't have those steering corrections. So for the comfort, you're not thrown around in the cockpit that much. And therefore it's also called G-vectoring control because it reduces the G-forces that are applied to the driver. And that's a very interesting thing. So that's where the name is deriving from. So really a clever idea from Mazda to do that. Now I'm really getting a little bit annoyed. There's this small scooter in front of us now, even in front of that car. But you know, on those very bending roads, it's always very dangerous to overtake. So better be conservative in that choice then. You see another car coming there. Because I would like to present you some more speedy driving also, and we'll just do it like this. We'll wait just a second. I can show you the rear view camera here as well. They have updated this central touch screen. Better resolution now. And there's also a little bit better resolution for the rear view camera, I have the feeling. And the camera didn't really change, but the resolution of the display, see when we're going to the front, got this visual display, and then again, it could be a better camera resolution, but overall it's fine and it does the job, definitely. So now we have a little bit of space in front of us. We can go a little bit faster. Easy trick here. And we've used the time we had. So also going to the sport mode now, it says sport here. Now let's see if the driving characteristics really changed here for the Mazda6, because I still remember driving the pre-facelifted version. And again, this is not a sports car, it's not a sports variant of a sedan, but still you can have driving fun. Oh, even screaming tires, you know. And you really have to think about, do you feel this GVC? It's really hard to feel it directly, but somehow you know it's there. Because the car is really a little bit more agile than before. At least that's what's my experience. As soon as there are maybe some new customers who already get the car, put me your feedback in the comments if you also feel it. And it's free, comes with every Mazda and zero production. And also the funny thing is that with this system, it's also safer, for example, in snowy conditions, because the car doesn't break out that much then. And it can especially be clever in combination to the all-wheel drive. However, just remember, all-wheel drive only available with the Estate and the diesel in combination. So now again, acceleration, going 50, hammering the throttle with this 2.5, and that's 18, almost 90. Nice. Really nice. And you see that was also the difference with the sport mode. With the sport mode, I had a way better reaction. And as soon as you approach the city, you can release the sport mode again and just go slower. About the consumption now, as we've driven the car a little bit longer, when we were just driving it on the Autobahn, on motorway, we could go to a consumption of below 6 liters, and that's really great. Now when we played around just a little bit here, that's an ambulance. Let's see, let's make freeway. So, when we were just playing around here with the car a little bit more, pushing the throttle, and we're now at 6.8 liters. So it can, of course, always go up depending on your driving habit. But overall, I really have to say, nice. So, especially if we compare to those, quite often we test those 2-liter turbo engines, and if you really hammer them, they can easily go up to 9 liters or so. And here you don't really need a diesel to consume less fuel. That also works with the petrol engine. And also interesting, especially when we're here now inside a small city, now I even feel the better sound installation because it's really very silent here. So it's good really that they have improved that. So was this driving part here where we felt the best improvements of this Mazda6 product update. Still a very solid mid-size car, and as we have the better sound installation and the new GVC, car feels more silent, a little bit more agile, and overall even easier to ride than it was before. Also with the visual stuff, we can see in the display and also right here. What do you think, guys? Tell me your opinion in the comments, also about our driving part here. And now our conclusion of the most recent Mazda6 models. Overall, a good performer in the mid-size segment, be it as a sedan or as an estate. Visually, at least for me, sedan leads it, but again, I really appreciate how well you can use the cargo space on the interior there. The package is overall also good. We have had enough room also for tall people on the inside. The exterior has a part joyful design with classic shapes in general, but I think overall very likable design. The interior quality and also design is also a very solid state. There was hardly anything to moan. Maybe I would appreciate a real head-up display. That would be very nice instead of this, plastic glass just. But even this one has been updated also with a little bit better resolution of the infotainment screen. So just some small updates here and there that went very well. And then finally about the G-VEC touring control and the driving, especially with the 2.5 liter petrol engine. I'm really keen on this engine. No turbo that can possibly break. The consumption is relatively low for a petrol engine. That's nice and better than all of the competitors. And also this GVC adds some more comfort and also some more agility to the ride. So the tweaks they have done here with the recent update are also reasonable and also something where the customer profits from. I would like to hear your feedback on exterior, interior and the new technology details from the driving. And of course, if you are a Mazda6 customer, share us your experience in the comments. That's also a way the whole community can again learn from. And I hope you appreciate our broad offer here from the estate, sedan, different colors, different trim levels. We're always trying to offer you as much as possible here on Autogefühl. And see you next time.